and welcome to Season of War! Hope you enjoyed that battle report we just had premiere. Our first one with the new Reign of the Brute supplement. Ridge, we had Trogherd versus the Sons of Bahamut, King Broad Stomp. So the two of the new subfactions from the new Dawnbringers book 2. It's exciting
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, trogs are fun. I am a trog player now, fully at heart, and I'm loving my life.
Nice. Well, we just want to do a little chat, kind of about the book. We'll go over kind of a lot of the general stuff throughout the sub factions, all the new stuff we're kind of looking at, our thoughts on it. We've played between us, a couple of us on the channel. We've played a few games now with the different sub factions, so have some thoughts that we'll kind of try to relay about the different things. I just want to talk about, I guess pros and cons, the things we like, the hits and misses with the book as a whole. And yeah, I guess that's going to be everything. So we do obviously invite everybody to kind of comment, ask us questions. It's a good time for kind of some like Q&A discussion about the book. And a good note here that I guess one of the first things is when we jumped into it, obviously we get these books. First up, thanks to Games Workshop for sending us the book. That's a big thing. We did get the Dawnbringers book so we could preview these rules and whatnot. We often are super tight though with kind of the turnaround time of like, getting the book, trying to digest everything, filming right away so we could edit super quick. In addition to like painting up new models when stuff comes out, so it's always a little bit of tight.
Yeah,
and can lead to little mistakes here and there. So actually, definitely noteworthy with this one. Before the Path to Glory stuff, which is in front of all the new rules and stuff, there's like a one-page kind of intro explanation that mentions you don't get the allegiance abilities from the sub-factions. Now, the only thing that this affected in our game that we just had debut is that we had used like our grand strats, which neither of us got anyways. And
yeah.
I think 2 or 3 battle tactics between us throughout the game that we wouldn't have actually had access to. But generally, I think there might have been actually. I think I picked an artifact on one of my guys, the run and charge. But other than that, I think generally pretty minor things. Still a good showcase of some of the new stuff. But we'll get into all the different sub factions and everything that is new. But I guess as a general overview of what's in the book and what people can expect, if you saw the first Dawnbringers book, there's obviously a big narrative section to it. So actually, the first half of the book is kind of all backstory, different stories of that. And with it bringing kind of around the Dawnbringer Crusades, there's a lot about the cities of Sigmar, and then there's a big Path to Glory section that kind of continues or is another step in the missions and questing of running a Dawnbringer Crusade with cities throughout that. So you're into cities, enjoying that, or the Path to Glory side of the hobby, there's obviously a ton of new abilities and options and campaign stuff for that. So while that's not our specialty, that is obviously a huge part of the book, is kind of the story element of it. Rich, we just gotta become narrative players.
Yes. Well, we somewhat are. We just played weeks ago, played this 1,500-point battle,
Yeah.
and we're more kind of worried about it being a good showcase. So that's where you see, some of the little bit of the rules that is not actually how they're played. But we didn't really say, but these armies of renown, take over the allegiance abilities. So I'm sure people have watched Vince or some of the other people that have talked about how these armies work. But so weeks ago we played this, and you can't take grand strats, battle tactics, artifacts, things like that. It takes over that. So they did a good job of making a lot of them, like say the Moon, within the new Reign of the Brute. It works the same as it does in the Gloomspite Gits, but then they have changed just a couple like small things.
Yeah,
But
there's a couple things like that in the terrain piece for Dits that they went out of their way to kind of explain that they still work.
yeah, and you can still use them.
Yeah, so that's a good note. But generally, for most things, like I think we're not super experts on KO. But one of the big effect in KO is you lose access to a bunch of abilities.
Yeah.
Like potentially, unless we missed anything. I don't think it like fly high and the combat landing stuff like that. So you get some stuff, you lose some stuff.
Hmm.
So it's not like just a pure a normal sub faction. It's kind of taking some of those units or a specialty piece of that army and building a new army from it.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And some of them you're going to see that you're going to miss certain command traits or like artifacts or things from the actual legions, but they do well at some, with Trugs specifically. There's still a couple battle tactics you can get.
yep,
Maybe the Grand Stra's not as amazing,
yep,
but it's a supplement, right? So sometimes those subfaction abilities are so good, like Trugs, where you can use it for your whole army,
yeah,
that you could see possibly running that as opposed to the
yeah,
old Git stuff.
yeah. And that's where it's like a lot of these, they're not like going to wholesale be like, okay, this is what you're doing every time with this army, and you're never using your old allegiance abilities. It's more just like an additional way to play the army if you want to. That could be thematic, whether it's running a big Trogoth army, or if you have 30 Thunderers on yourself, that's a nice narrative option as well.
Yeah,
Um,
narrative.
yes, exactly. But that's kind of the gist of kind of the book as a whole. There's again the big narrative section.
Mhm.
Why don't we jump in, and we're going to again be talking kind of about some of the allegiance abilities and rules, giving our kind of general opinions. We're not going like war scroll by roll scroll or rule by rule reading everything out. We're kind of just kind of want to give our first impressions after getting like some experience with the stuff on the table.
Yep.
Um, so Rage, first up we have Trogherd.
Yeah.
Want to take us through it?
Yeah, big time. So this is so fun. So there's a couple big things with Trugs now. So if you can still run like Glog's Mega Mob, obviously in Gits, and there's some benefits of that. But with Trugs, essentially the big thing that it allows you to do is use his Laystone ability to give it to your entire army. So that's amazing. It makes all the non-hero Trugs battle line. So you're going to be able to see Dankhold Troggoths being in units of 3
Yeah.
because you can double reinforce them.
And
They're going to
just
do.
for those that haven't seen Trog's War Scroll, what are the kind of like he bonks his Laystone? What kind
Yeah.
of abilities does that give out that's going to again benefit all of the Trogs in the army?
Yeah, so it's like +1 to the rend, +1 attack, which is amazing. 5-up ward, which is really good for like Danks himself and Fellwaters. You can get only hit them on 6s in shooting. So this new cities meta that we might be going into, or a lot of these shooting armies that we might see now, only be able to hit my entire army on 6s, and you can do this when you have that matchup. You roll the 4 dice, so you could get that die and then just turn off that army for
Yeah.
until you bonk it again. So, and someone in the comment actually talked about it earlier, but you bonk his Laystone in this subfaction for it to happen to the whole army. You do need to hit it every start of hero, but if he's in Glog's Mega Mob, for instance, he gives the bonking of his Laystone to himself, but you don't actually have to bonk it again. So if you got the 5-up ward in Glog's, he would have a 5-up ward if you wanted it for the entire game, and he would heal D3 +3 after every time he activates, because that's what the Glog's does, like for their subfaction
So
ability.
different way to play, but obviously outside of Trogherd,
Yeah.
he doesn't give that benefit for the Laystone to the other guys.
No,
So
just himself.
and that's the kind of the big, I guess, shining star of this subfaction.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like he's okay in Glogs because him healing D3 +3, 4-up save, 16 wounds. He can definitely be taken down. Probably gonna be +1 from the moon. And in Glogs, you have better ways to always be in the moon, like having Scraggy or something. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like people are gonna run Trogherd because they want to run all trolls, and you can run 3 Danks, and 3 Danks do a crazy amount of damage, and having the subfaction abilities all around it is great. So it's a big, I really like. I obviously love playing Trogs, and I've been playing them more now. I really love King's Gits, running a couple units of Bounders with some Trogs. That's kind of I'm feeling like I'm kind of gravitating a bit more towards that. But I also really love playing all Trogs. So playing Mega Mob, just to be able to keep the moon and having your grand strat. So that's a big one. Quick, I'll just segue into really quick. So the grand strat is kind of rough because you need to keep Trog alive and kill all the enemy heroes. So it's kind of a tough grand strat to get. A lot of armies can just keep that little hero away, and you just will never get it with your giant Trogs running around.
Is there any of the generic ones that might be options? Because those are still available.
Yeah, so I guess like killing all wizards, there's some other ones that
Yeah.
are decent, but the book ones usually spellcasting savant is like the go-to for other armies. So I don't know off the top of my head, I don't think any amazing ones. I guess if you're going to table your army being in the middle,
Kill battle
but
line and have
kill
battle
battle
line
line.
left.
Yeah, I could see that because everything is battle line, so that one actually would be decent. But yeah, so just for the book wise, and then tactics wise, they do have two good ones. So the one is I did in the bat rep that first turn one. The what's that glowy thing? So just having two units taking over point and Holy Under the Moon. So easy turn one, and then the other one is Trug kills a hero. You could see getting that one, but there is another easy one that's you. What is it? You have to kill a unit. Just kill a unit with using the Laystone ability. So you're using that every turn anyway. So pretty much just kill the unit.
Yeah,
So
that's a good
two
one.
of two of the three of those are quite attainable, and then the third one with Trug killing a hero is not terrible
Situational
either.
as well. Yeah. So two
So
2 to 3 decent options. In addition to like, then you're relying on only maybe 2 of the generic ones. So that's
yeah,
actually for only having 3 options. There are 3 good ones. Sounds.
yeah, and then intimidate the invaders. You're not getting surrounded obviously, but like you can still get led into the maelstrom. So there's still they can definitely get all 5 of their tactics.
Yeah.
And then the command traits and artifacts, it's cool because you can put Trug can have those command traits like we saw in the bat rep. He can take the
heroes.
Yeah, so he can put it on himself. There's 2 that I like. The one that I took was amazing.
So good.
Yeah, so
his prize chocolate was the one you took.
yeah, so turning off command abilities on a 5-up, which I just rolled a bunch of 5-ups, but still, it is good. And then the other one actually add 1 to your regen, which is great because he heals D3 plus 3, so it would be D3 plus 4, and all your trogs would heal D3 plus 1. And then the other one lets him deep strike, which I don't really see much to that. And then but the artifacts, one gives the essentially your trog boss D6 plus 5 movement. So kind of cool. I could see possibly using that, or -1 to hit and wounds. The one I ran, but it didn't. I don't know how much you're going to activate him first, and then turning into a monster. So they're all kind of decent, but yeah, none of them are like the glowy house it or anything from the original book that are just so good. A loon skin. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, like I said, I think it's going to be people wanting to play trogs, playing all trogs, getting some benefits to their abilities, and then people that want to run, like our buddy Chris Werder wants to running the 3 Dankled Trogoths, just absolutely wrecking shit with those because they're just, who doesn't want to run 3 Trogoths in a unit?
How many points is it for 3?
They're 190, so 300 plus 270, so 570.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you could run 3 packs, and there's your battle line.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I guess you can't double reinforce the 3 units.
No, you would be able to do 2.
Yeah, 2 3 packs.
Yeah, the list that I pretty much have been like toying around is Trog, Boss, 6 Rock Guts, 3 Rock Guts, 3 Danks, and either single dank, or 2 danks in the second unit.
Nice.
Which is like, that's just like, so going to a tournament with that's kind of where my brain is at cool, now. Yeah. That's like, very easy and fun and lots of damage and yeah.
Nice. So yeah, no, that'd be cool. Yeah, unfortunately the Untitled Chapter didn't get to shine in this last game or this first game, but they'll be back.
Yeah, we got
reinforcements.
Yeah, exactly. Be fun.
Cool. Well, I guess if that's it, we can move on to Iron Jaws. Unless you went over Trout, so that's all good. So Iron Jaws, obviously, we also saw the supplement come out on Warhammer Community, which is basically everything that's in here, I think. Which so a ton of new units for Iron Jaws. I think this is maybe for me the most exciting thing with this whole book and everything that came out. Just the new models for Iron Jaws. That's a range that was already incredible, from the models, but there just wasn't a lot of options. And now there's a ton more options. There was, in general, like all of the Iron Jaws kits, like model kits, were beautiful except one, which was the Ard Boys. They were just old. Where now the Ard Boys have been refreshed, and they're like one of the best ones now.
Yeah, they're sweet.
They are so cool. So I'll go through kind of, I guess, the subfaction first, and then that'll lead us into talking about each of the new units that came out.
Mm-hmm.
So with the Iron Jaws, they did a new subfaction that's Grunta Stampede. So again, like the other ones, this replaces a lot of the allegiance or all the allegiance abilities, but there are a couple noteworthy things that come with it. First, this is really centered around the new Tusk Boss and the mod rentas, so all the new paid heroes and the paid models. Though it does also make your Door Grunta's battle line as well, so you can kind of fill out your battle line without having to take just paids. You can take just paids if you want to.
Yeah, they have to be either all like Mod Gruntas or Gore Gruntas.
Yes, yeah. So the big thing with this is you do have a Grunta Wa. So this obviously instead of Iron Jaws Wa, if your general is a Mod Grunta, then you get to call the Mod Grunta So the Grunta Wa, which actually is really interesting. So it gives all your Mod Gruntas impact hits. So on a 3-up, they're doing D3 mortal wounds to each unit within one. So if you tag a couple units, that's really big. I believe that is, it's when your unit finishes. So
each enemy unit within one.
Yeah. So, but if you have a big unit of 2 or 3 of the like battle line Gruntas, Mod Gruntas, then you obviously can hit multiple things and whatnot, and steal some mortals, which is super nice. Again, we mentioned the Door Gruntas also becoming battle line, and then we'll explain this in a little bit. But the kind of the last battle trait is during the first battle round. At the end of each of those first 2 turns, your Mod Gruntas don't lose momentum. They have a mechanic. As a brief overview, where as they run and charge throughout the game, they build up momentum, and that kind of just makes them more and more powerful. And then they'll lose momentum at the end of a turn. So you have to kind of keep running them, keep charging them to keep at the kind of top bracket.
Yeah, makes sense. Pigs want to be charged.
Yeah. There are two monstrous actions with the subfaction. So one of them is if you're lower on momentum, I think it's if you're under 3, so kind of at the start of the game, or if someone charges you or something, you can slay a model if you double their wounds characteristic on a d6. So you can slay up to a 3 wound model. So that's monstrous action. And then there's one after you charge, you can move another d6 and you gain 1 momentum. So that's just another after you've charged. Let's say you only roll a 1 or a 2 and you want to get to that next momentum kind of level, you can use the monstrous action to get there. That's a nice little one, again, for helping you get up there. Like dragons, if you do have a unit of multiple Mod Rentas, only one of them can perform a monstrous action. So that's noteworthy. Though there is something, so actually you can pick with this subfaction 3 of your Mod Renta units to gain mount traits. And the mount traits do benefit all of the Mod Rentas in a unit. So if you have a unit of 3, because they're battle line, all 3 of them get the mount traits. There's a couple cool ones. So to go through them quickly, one of them is to ignore Rend 1. So it doesn't reduce Rend, but you can ignore Rend 1. So you kind of can pick and choose what units you want to throw it into. But for you have 2 or 3 Mod Rentas, ignoring Rend 1 is pretty big. There's the next one is +1 hit and wound for your mount attacks if you've taken any damage before. So, and you have 2 units activating, you activate them second so that they're potentially taking a hit. Mod Rentas have a ton of wounds, so there's a good chance that you're surviving, you're not losing any models when you get hit. And then clapping back with +1 hit and wound is big because those like Mod Renta attacks are very significant. Sorry, mute my phone. Don't know if you guys can hear that. And then the third one, actually, the third mount trait is a really cool one because countercharging is big in this game. So one of your units can, on a 3-up at the end of the enemy charge phase, can countercharge. So again, also a good mechanic because not only are you potentially messing up their engagements, but you're also generating momentum by charging, right? So you can, in a potential turn, enemy's turn, you could do this counter charge with the mount trait. You roll your D3, you potentially get 3, and then do one of the other, monstrous actions to either get the 1, like the monstrous action we talked about, or some of the Mondrenta hero and the elite one have the ability to like do that again, get another D3. So you potentially could get 6 momentum on your opponent's turn, which is very notable.
Yeah, it's the charging in opponent's phase is just the best.
Always
That's
good.
the greatest.
Yeah.
On a 3-up, it's like,
but you're 66% of the time. So
yeah,
not every time, but gives you a chance. No command abilities or anything spent. But talking about, there's only one command trait in this book, or in this subfaction. It gives you +1 rend for attacks that target an enemy monster. So not amazing.
No, meh.
Yeah, it's okay, but yeah.
And it's just a big hacker.
Yeah, you might look at, honestly, like putting, yes, it's just the general's weapon. You might look at, honestly, just doing +1 to wound. Oh, that's the artifact. But even that, like the generic stuff might, be better options.
CP or something. Yeah.
One disappointing thing I know with the new models that we'll kind of talk about, is the test boss doesn't have the mega boss keyword, so can't take some of the generic things if you put him outside of the subfaction, which is a bit disappointing. Or not generic, but like the normal Ironjawz ones can't take the mega boss artifacts like the Destroyer Axe.
Yeah,
or any of that. So that's a little bit disappointing. But he's still no slouch. The artifact that he can take, though, is notable, like interesting. Lets him issue CP anywhere on the battlefield, and if there's an enemy within 3 on a 3-up, you deal 1 mortal wound to any of them.
Again, why that second rule? Like,
yeah, it's like, okay. Not like it could be big. Some of your stuff is elite. I don't think the mod grunches, like the Battleline Gougers, are not elite, and they don't have a unit leader. So that's noteworthy that they kind of somewhat need to be babysat.
Anywhere on the field is always good.
So exactly. So that's good. Duran's strat is your general has to have got to 6 momentum at some point throughout the game. Pretty easy, but then also survive to the end of the game. Doable. Just got to be smart with him. And then battle tactics. There's a couple. One of them is, the first one is out of control, so you have to do the 2 monstrous actions from the subfaction and then 2 other monstrous actions. That means you have to have 4 units in combat to do monstrous actions. Not impossible by any means.
Pretty still though, that one's tough. So I think.
I mean, if you build
with redeploy and just everything else, if
you're building into the mod rent, yes, like, but multi units, you charge 3 into the same unit, stuff like that. So like kind of a turn 2, turn 3 one, I think is potentially viable. The boss leads the way. If you call the wall and then your general kills something, you get it. That's a really good one. That obviously, he's going to be wanting to hit stuff and kill stuff anyways. So
and everything's charging already.
And then the last one is if three or more friendly mod renta units have a momentum score of 5+. So again, if you're getting your charges off, you can get run and charge on their war scroll as you build momentum. So that helps keep your momentum up, in addition to the monstrous actions. So I think that one's fairly reliable if you're starting off like at 3 or momentum on a bunch of stuff. So that's the subfaction. Overall thoughts are, it's super thematic. If you really love the big page, want to run the big page, and run an army of them, I would. That's something that would be a ton of fun. I would love to do that and get 8 of these guys on the table, 9 maybe. Like, you could run a bunch of them. Is it going to be the best way, most competitive way to play the army? I mean, I think it could do well, but I think maybe a balance might be stronger still. But you can still, unlike Trubs, you can still bring in your war chanters. You can bring in some other stuff. So I actually have a list that I want to talk about at the end real quick. So it's still got a lot of strength in here, and it'll run through stuff. And the mod rentas are not to be underestimated. Like, a lot of all their profiles are basically like 3s and 3s for the most part.
Yeah, but you can't bring War Chanters though if you're doing the Grunt to Stampede.
Is there? Oh yes, you're right.
It's straight up just Maw Gruntas or Gore Gruntas.
Yes, yeah.
So that's where competitively I could see it. Like, I think this is more not just fun. Like, I could see it. It's just a classic Iron Jaws pigs. Everything's charging. Everything's getting momentum. Everything's doing damage.
Exactly.
But I just don't think they're gonna. I don't think it'll be like a top end competitive compared to.
It doesn't have the tech of like the pigs like charging at the end of combat and stuff like that.
Yeah, and just brutes like the new Ard boys. I don't know. I feel like there's gonna be.
But as a like pure big pig list, like a lot of people love to do with destruction, and if you want to just push everything forward, charge, try and wipe your enemy, they don't even have a chance to do it, right? So
they'll be able to do that
the destruction way.
Yes.
But yes, Ridge, that is a good note that the Mod Renta and Gord Renta, you have to have one of those keywords to be able to be included in the army.
Yeah.
So the 3 war scrolls with the big pig. I'm not going to go too in depth. The Tusk boss is obviously the character one. The difference between him and the elite one is basically he just gets two extra attacks on the profile, and then he has one ability. If he makes the character, if he makes a charge move, all other mod rentas on the battlefield can reroll their charge. Really good for getting into combat.
Yeah.
And charge being important. And then both him and the elite one, these are guys. These are the builds that have the guys on the side as well. So I'll show them off.
Yeah. Let's see.
We got the big guy. He's gonna be on the channel next week. At some point during the week for our channel members, showing off the big pig. And
he's a beast.
He is a beast, and he can do work. 14 wounds on him, 3 up save, which is notable. The elite one's only a 4 up save.
That's the big one, I think, is the Tusk boss being the 3 up save. It's huge.
And has a monstrous action. I think I mentioned it earlier, where he can basically, I think he gets to charge again.
Carve a path,
carve a path, charge again. Can do some mortal wounds. Basically, the big thing is like getting to reposition and getting to roll again for momentum.
So charge another part of your army and fly over. Under 2 wounds, 2 or less.
But then again, the elite one is very similar to him. 2 attacks less, 1 less save, but the same monstrous action, and most of the other abilities are the same.
It's so good. That monstrous action is just so good. Like we saw, like Gargans have it now. Just the 3d6 with the ogres. It's the classic. Like, you just get into the meat of things, right? You charge the screen, get into the meat of something that you really want to kill, like a hammer unit, that whatever, and you can just cripple them, and then you pin. If it's you have Mystic Shield on him, or well, I guess you wouldn't have that, but just super strong.
Yeah, no, it is crazy. Again, you mentioned that, like, the save is big. I think it's 90 point difference between these guys. So kind of like, if you have the points, upgrade him. In the list I was looking at, it's like I had 2 Tusk bosses. And it's 110 points difference. So that's notable to make him a hero.
That's a unit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So very notable. The battle line one, you obviously lose the side guys, but then it's the same profile as the elite guy otherwise. He has a different monstrous action, but generally otherwise the same abilities. 2 less wounds. His monstrous action is actually, you can make something with wounds characteristic of 1 or 2 fight last, so get the strike last effect. That's notable. Techie and situational. What's up, Sabetti? Thanks for the super chat to support the channel. But again, these gougers, so 12 wounds on a 4 up save, you can reinforce it twice. You can have 3 of these guys with 36 wounds. Obviously, that's kind of a big, footprint, but you have that option. And again, yeah, becoming battle line in this. So before I jump into anything else, kind of the list I was looking at was like Tusk Boss. You could run, you know, two or three units of 2 mod runtas, and then a single one, or 5 mod runtas total, and then the elite one. So it's like, if you want to, there's some play between, because there are some significant points differences where you can actually probably get pretty close to like 2,000 points. And especially if you look at throwing some of the Dord runtas in there as well, help fill up battle line, be maybe more of a screen, so your big page can counterpunch. But you're looking at what, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 potential big pages on the table. Like if you have a kind of balanced build between all of them, so that definitely could lead to a lot of fun. But let's talk about some of the other characters and units. Nick Garcia is asking the base size. That's the Tree Lord base size, I believe. Yeah, so it's a big base. Like this is a big model. So compared to like, this is one of the heroes on a 50 mil. So I mean, I can measure it right here. It's 120 by 90 base size on him. So very big, and it's just a dope model.
Yeah, it is sweet.
So characters. So I just showed you. So we had in our game that we have coming out next week, we had Carl ran Zodrak Anvil Smasher. He's awesome. Ironjaws didn't lack for damage output, but now they have a source of mortal wounds. You're pretty much going to take him with the tongs, because if he takes the tongs instead of the sword, on a 2-up, he grants a unit 6s or mortal wounds in addition.
Curse, yeah, so good.
Again, Ironjaws didn't lack for damage, but something that's high save stacking, they could have trouble with sometimes. This gives them a way around that, amplifies it. Also, it's like, not only are your big units going to be doing more damage, but you think it's even like your trading units can now swing up a little bit more with a couple buffs. And this isn't a spell. It's not a something you can interact with. It's just on a 2-up. So your opponent doesn't have a way to kind of stop it.
Yeah, he's amazing.
So that's really cool. I'm really excited about our boys right now. Something like our boys can still hit, and something like that, like they can take a lot of buffs really well, and you can have a unit of 10 Ard boys that like can like take a punch and deal a punch back. Another character specific to Ard boys is the Ard boy Big Boss. He buffs their shield bash he buffs their shield bash, which isn't really a big deal because it's like mortals on 6s for guys just within 1. So you're like 1 mortal wound or 2 mortal wounds in combat phase.
Yeah,
not great. Compared to like
5-up rally.
Yeah, exactly. 5-up rally, and he can issue it to 2 units. So if you really want to build into Ard boys and have like a 20 block or 2 20 blocks is not unheard of. You got 40 Ard boys at that point, and the hero is 100 points. So that's 80 wounds of Ard boys and this hero that can rally them back on 5s, and both units for 1,000 points. So that's like 85, 86 wounds there, rallying on 5s. You got 1,000 points to work with in your army still, really strong. So that's the big boss. He's got 5 attacks at 2 damage, which is neat. And then just because we've been talking about the synergy with Ard boys, I'll talk about them next. 2 wounds each, movement 4, which is classic, 3-up save though, which is the big difference. So really giving them a distinct feel and purpose and role in the army, where before, throughout the additions and battle tomes, it was like, okay, Ard boys and brutes, which one is just more efficient damage for their points? But now they actually have a different role, which is incredible. 3-up save is so good in this game. So that's super exciting. 2 different weapon loadout options. One is the swords. It's only 1-inch range, but makes them a little more offensive. If they're charging, you get +1 attack on the charge. The stickers profile though, you get what is it?
Rend.
Yes, you get
Just get one
+1
rend, yeah.
rend if they
2 inch
charge
though.
you, but it's forced to hit 2-inch range, yeah, so they can fight in multiple ranks. So a bit of a trade-off there. Depends on
Yeah.
how you want to use them. Or do a unit of each, whatever.
Yeah, just more of the 3-up save. It's like the old Art Fist. I remember I used to play that in Big Wa. It was fun back in the day, and you could bring them back and stuff. It's nice to see the Art Boys, possibly be getting some more use again, and not everyone just running Iron Sun, or what's it called, the pig subfaction, and just all the gore
Well, that's the
grunts.
thing. It was like maybe, and we played a few lists on the channel where you run some brutes because they're cute and they're fun. Yeah. You can lay the smack, but they were even going to brutes was a cute pick. You just never saw Ard Boys unless someone needed to fill battle line as cheap as possible.
Just Bloodtooth's pigs was just doing just so well.
So there are 2 other units that came out for Ironjawz. It's one kit, which is kind of a dual build kit. You either are building the Brute Ragers or the Weird Brute Rekkas. So these guys, it's 3 models, 3 wounds each. So you get 9 models for either 100 or 100. Sorry, 9 wounds for either 100 or 120 points. 5-up save, so they're not tanky. But one of the units does have a 5-up ward while it's in combat. That's the unit that's 120 points.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the Chain Smasher, which is 6 attacks, 4s, rend 1, 2 damage. Where the other unit has that option, but they also have the option of a Mighty Doorhacka and Brute Crusher, which I think the Mighty Doorhacka is probably the most reliable one. 3 attacks, 3s, rend 2, 2 damage. Going up to 3 damage with the War Chanter buff. And both of them can run and charge.
Yeah.
So this is actually one of the things that people are excited about right now. We saw it with Bone Splitters when people would run be spamming the big the big spear guys that want to take down monsters. Big stabbas. Yeah, close enough. So they were spamming the big stabbas. This is basically like the Ironjawz equivalent of that, where you can run MSU of these Brute Ragers. Let's say you run 10 units of Brute Ragers. That's 1,000. That's half your army, but that's 90 wounds for 1,000 points.
Yeah.
And any of those MSU units, so you got 10 of them, can lay the hurt. They can take a bunch of buffs mostly they don't care about the mortals on 6s because it's elite attacks, but something like just the +1 damage. These guys can hit hard. They'll be really annoying for trades and your opponent's target efficiency. They're 7 bravery, so even if you kill one, the last one's only battle shotting on a 6.
Yep. Time and Big Wa, they get +1 to hit and wound, all the good stuff. Yeah.
So just like 1,000 points for 90 wounds at MSU that can do that, run and charge, gonna be annoying.
Yeah, I can see.
Really tough to deal with. So that's that. Again, the other more expensive unit, you get a 5-up ward within 3. Makes them a little more annoying. Don't know if it's worth the trade-off. You are limited to the profile, but you're right. In Big Wa, you do go to 3s and 3s. I read 1, 2 damage, so maybe they're better at clearing screens and whatnot. You run a couple of the weird Brute Rekkas. They're your first wave, and then you have more of the Brute Ragers in behind. So that's everything for Ironjawz, which is a ton. So it was a lot to go through, but I think everyone loves Ironjawz, right? Like Ridge, we both played this army a ton. I think it's super exciting to see these new units more than the allegiance abilities and the subfaction. It's the new units and expanding the current Ironjawz range.
It's like everyone played. Like I said, people played mainly pigs, but if you weren't playing pigs, you were playing brutes. So it was like, it's nice to have these things. Like, it'll be good when Flesh Eaters has the same thing. It's just more units to actually use from. You're not seeing the exact same builds.
Yeah.
So it's great when they actually have the hero that can give 6s to hit do mortals, and it just gives you more diversity when you're building lists and stuff. So gone hopefully are the days of just every time you play Ironjawz, you're like, okay, it's gonna be 6 pigs, Maw Crusher. You pretty much what the list is gonna be.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, like you said, a lot more options. It's gonna make Ironjawz as a faction better. If you are in love with the big pigs and want to buy 9 or 10 of them and play 9 or 10 of them, you can do that in this sub faction, and you'll have a lot of fun doing it. But obviously, that's like like anything, when you go all in on one unit kind of thing and spam that, it's going to have some pros and cons to it.
Yeah.
But next up, we got King Broad Stomp, like we just saw in the battle report.
Yeah. All the Gargant players are happy. I think this is an awesome way to, after having that new regiment with the squigs and stuff, that was a cool kind of update for, pulling in that 500 points and making them run in charge, having all that was cool. And then now this is another kind of option, just another subfaction. It just gives a bit more variance, and it's super strong because Broad with the 5-up ward, and as we saw in the battle report, like being able to fight at top bracket was so good.
That command
and then,
trait.
Yeah.
I think I used it like probably 6 or 8 turns of the game.
Yeah, like constantly. So I think this is going to be super strong. The only thing is you lose the big trade-offs are you lose the suplex in the monstrous actions, but you get a 3d6 flying monstrous action, and then that with roar are pretty much the two that you're in Titanic Duel if you need it are much better than just having that suplex, I think.
Yeah.
And then the terrain, picking up the terrain is just crazy good. There's so many things to it. I know what we were chatting before, like even the teleporting of the going to one part of the terrain, barely towing on the top of it, so that when you remove that terrain, everything that is on or garrisoned in it has to be wholly within 6 of that piece of terrain. So you can essentially pick up that Gargant, put it to wholly within 6 on the other side of where that terrain piece is, staying outside of 3, and then still do your shooting attack.
Think of something like a Citadel would. You're potentially moving like 14 inches with this throwing attack. Now that could change if they don't want that to happen. But even think of something that's like 14 inches closer to your opponent, or 14 inches around their flank and going around the side of their screens. And then you're still charging and potentially doing the monstrous action to move again. Like, these Guardians are literally like with a 10-inch move. Think if they move 14 inches, 24, charge 6, 30, they're moving another 3d6, averages 12, 42-inch movement out of a Guardian. If you can set those things up, not out of the realm of possibility in a turn.
It's going to be hard to screen, and then 3d6 charging or 3d6 monstrous action. It's going to be very hard to.
Or there's
screen.
There's a terrain piece that you're using to block off the enemy and trying to screen around. That terrain piece is now gone on a 2-up, right? Like, and there's a big hole. So
I really don't think that they meant to have the whole teleporting Gargant, like the whole.
Agreed.
That being a thing, but they just didn't say other units, or when you pick up the terrain, they didn't think of the Gargant itself being on that terrain.
Yes.
And then being able to have to be set up wholly within 6 of it.
So, some.
I don't know if they'll change it, to be honest.
Yeah. It's weird. Obviously, something that's like garrisonable or impassable, you don't have to be able to do that because you can't put your toe on it.
Yeah.
But if you can put your base on a terrain piece and then remove that, and again, you set yourself up within 6 of that terrain piece somewhere else. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Wild. So that's all exciting stuff. We didn't even mention the shooting attack itself.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, it's like
it's crazy damage. We saw, exactly. Did 0 the first turn in that bat rep, and then did 17.
Yeah.
So D3 plus 3, decent amount of damage for sure.
D6 attacks, you do all attack, you're on 3s and 3s. Eventually,
yes,
gonna hurt someone.
Swingy, but can do a crazy amount.
Yeah, sure. I think the standout command trait was the one we talked about, Ridge, Loudmouth Bully, that I was running.
So good.
So he pits a guy wholly within 12. He can pit himself a Guardian to fight on top bracket in combat. Amazing. Doesn't do anything for like counting as more bodies because it only lasts for the combat phase. But still, fighting a top bracket, that's huge with Guardians, right? They can, the brackets hurt them.
Yeah.
Notably.
And then what's their... Oh, the Grand Strat's kind of no terrain. It seems kind of
Grand Strat is literally impossible if you think of like your table has an average of 8 pieces.
Yeah,
so
kind of dumb. I don't...
Yeah.
I don't know what they're thinking. Yeah, if they're thinking some people don't play by like those types of rules, where
It
we have at least that
only
many.
works if you have 5 terrain pieces or less on the table,
Yeah,
and then you have to get to each of them on each turn and roll a 2 up.
yeah.
And
So very, very.
very. If you did smash it all to bits or something on your opponent's turn, maybe, but obviously you can't.
Yeah.
So it's just like you just it's literally just, yeah,
And then
impossible.
tactics. What are the tactics? Kill
Um,
something with a hurled terrain.
yeah, tactics are okay. Finish, kill something with hurled terrain. Um, a bit swingy because the attack is swingy, but if you have something like limping, a small hero, or 1 or 2 models left in a unit, worth the risk.
Take a
If you're,
point with Brock, another Gargant.
yep, uh, and then take an objective with Guardians that made a charge move.
Okay,
So
nice.
so 2 good tactics in there, 1 situational one. If you're kind of scraping for tactics at the end, which is notable because like Guardians, didn't have, they had some like decent tactics, but like here's still 2 or 3 achievable ones. So I legitimately think that this subfaction is competitive. Like you can
Oh,
run
for
this
sure.
at a tournament and do really well with it because of
Yeah.
all like the things that they do have.
And it's not like crazy intricate. It's kind of
No.
appealing for if you want to just chill and that
Well, that's it.
before like stand on
Destruction.
circles and
Yes, Sons of Behemoth. That's kind of how they were to begin with. Gives more options. A Guardian, 40 wound Guardian on with a 5-up ward. We all hated it
yeah.
before. It was really strong. I think
Yeah.
Suns are in a different place than they were back then, where they have lower damage output overall and they're a bit swingier.
Hmm.
So I don't think it's probably going to be as egregious as it was. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's not like he can take broad. Well, he can take the command traits, can't take artifacts.
Yeah.
Yeah. No new war scrolls or anything, but any other thoughts or notes on um the Guardians? They've a couple
Not
artifacts. 5-up
mhm.
ward against mortals. Okay. The one I ran actually was cute. On an 8+ charge, you get to strike first.
Yeah.
They
That one's
really
I
like
like
that.
that.
Yeah.
When you get multiple activation, strike first is and strike last are amazing effects, right? For
Yep.
combat armies. So
Mm-hmm.
good.
Yep. So that's them trying to play the activation game. And then the last one, um, it's very situational. On a 5-up, if you're within 1 of an enemy with an artifact of power, that artifact can no longer be used.
Yeah.
So you're never taking that, I don't think, because it's just way too situational. 1-inch range. You're within 1. You're either like trying to kill that hero or something, anyways, more often than not.
Yeah.
And it's just not worth taking an artifact slot for such a situational thing.
Yep. Yep.
Well, the last one to talk about, we're gonna kind of go over, um, you know, kind of at a high level. I've played a couple games with KO, but by no means am I an expert. And this was a lot of just kind of talking with Carl about theory and stuff with this one and what the potential possibilities are.
Hmm.
But for KO, it's the Grunstock Expeditionary Force. Um, so every unit in your army must be KO, and either a hero that is not unique or it has to have the Grunstock keyword. So this is again getting rid of like a bunch of stuff in your army. So that's like literally taking out like your ironclads, your arcanauts, your um
Everything that doesn't have that keyword, yeah.
yeah, yeah. But
It's pretty much thunders and gun haulers, right? That's
yes, yes,
the
that's exactly it. So you're filling your army with heroes that are not unique. So it is any heroes though. So it still opens you up to the amazing range of cheap KO heroes.
navigator, chemist, blah blah
Yeah,
blah.
yeah.
Yeah,
But then you're looking at a bunch of thunderers and dawn haulers. So this subfaction though has the potential to be nuts.
yeah.
Everyone all you KO players, you filthy KO players who bought 30 Thunderers before kind of we saw some nerfs, points and whatnot. Well, now you're not taking your gun haulers and ironclads anyways, so you got more points to work with. You can field 30 Thunderers again. Um,
Yeah.
and it's could be really good. So again, you can still take your buffing heroes, um, a little bit situational in terms of positioning, but you're gonna have like what? How many points are gun haulers? Like 170.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
170.
So um, here's your list. This is the start of your list. If you want to do this competitively, you're gonna take 2 units of 15 Thunderers and minimum 2 gun haulers because you want one for each of those. So then you have, and that, so 2 gun haulers, 2 units of 15 Thunderers comes to 1,300 points. You have 700 points to add in whatever 3-4 heroes you want, and probably 3
more Thunderers.
Well, more Thunderers. You could do more Thunderers in like 5 packs, but three heroes is gonna be like the 3 you want. You got, what is it? An
Admiral, Navigator,
Chemist. That's 340 points there. Then you're fitting in 2 more boats, and you can ferry into that moment. So you have 2 more boats as well. So you got 3 heroes. I guess you got a, and the boats do become battle line actually as well. So the boats and the Thunders become battle lines, so you can do that. The big thing with this one is, yes, you don't have the ironclads and the big boats to garrison stuff in, but the little bit boats now, when they make a normal move, they can select 1 unit within 3 inches, not wholly within, and that unit basically holds on to the ropes and gets ferried along. So this is going to give you the mobility that you lost from not having fly high, from not having the transport ships. And it's going to allow you to move those Thunderers. So,
and you don't need bridge like you see the old lists with P15s, one bridge, one in the boat.
So these boats move 12 inches. So if you think about positioning, this is going to give you 12 inches, and then you deploy that unit that came with them. It has to be wounds characteristic of 6 or less.
Yeah. Wholly within 3 of the gun hauler.
Yeah, and then it's set up wholly within 3. So you're moving potentially these Thunderer blocks 15 inches minimum. Keep in mind, you can also set them up. Sorry, what was it? You can also once per game on the war scroll of the gun haulers move an extra 6 inches. So that 15 inches now goes to 21 inches once per game. Then you also have the Navigator, I believe, rolls the dice to read the winds, and you're getting to move a couple boats potentially, or 1 or more. You roll 6s, 3 plus D3 inches. So that's 21 inches, potentially going to another 4 to 6, so 25 to whatever it is, 27.
Yeah. And then shooting, it's a huge area.
So that's exactly a huge range. Your stuff is only coming down outside of 3 after you move that. So you're getting a lot of your threat further, harder to screen it out because you can go around the sides, whatnot, all that stuff. Again, big things are you're losing fly high, you're losing your combat landing, you're losing a bunch of notable stuff.
Yeah.
But kind of the bones of this army are all still there. You got shooting firepower, you got mobility in boats, you got your little heroes that you can also ferry around to individual gun haulers, or with individual gun haulers.
And you can shoot twice. You didn't say it even the biggest part.
So this is all the setup for the ability to leverage your damage output.
Yes.
Leverage, as you said, after any unit shoots, any run stock unit shoots or fights, roll a dice. On a 4-up, it gets to shoot or fight again at -1 to hit.
Yeah.
Still amazing. So you think these 30 Thunderers are potentially operating as, or have the potential to operate as, 40 to 50 Thunderers, right? When you take into account the -1 hit. Insanely swingy because it is a 4-up, but potentially insanely oppressive. You roll 4-ups on both of your units of 15 Thunderers when they're shooting. Again, that takes 30 Thunderers, turns them into 50 Thunderers, 55 Thunderers. You're gonna just table armies, like, because you can position so well with this. Some deployments that are only like the back 13 inches, you can't hide big heroes, far enough back you're decimating so much of the board.
Yeah.
And then also you take a command trait on your general to rally all your Thunderers on a 4-up.
Yeah, I can't believe they left the Fort Rally.
Like
They
that, they put
kept that with the
that
Thunders.
command trait in here. So you put your general kind of central. If you have a unit on either side, holy 8, that's 36-inch bubble to keep your dice in for rally.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, if they do charge into you, not only can you unleash hell, but then
Double
on a 4-up,
hell.
you're shooting again. And you're already -1 to hit, so it is a pure double unleash hell.
Yeah, because you're already -1. Yeah, so it's just double the output.
So again, this is maybe a little bit of an oversight of like the competitive tuning of what this could be tuned to do. You think if you just run, a bunch of MSU Thunderers and a ton of gun haulers, like our buddy Simeon has, he's to have a lot of fun with it. It's to be more of a fair and balanced thing. Those gun haulers, shooting twice on a 4-up, way less impactful. But the Thunderer blocks have the opportunity, potential to be absolutely devastating, which is legitimately scary. It's legitimately going to be a competitive build that people are going to try running at the start. And they're going to potentially, like, half their games, they're going to shoot you off the table in a couple turns if you can't close with them, or they get the unleash hell and you can't avoid stuff like that. Like,
and every unit does it. That's what's cool, right? Even if you have 10 gun haulers, whatever, every unit can do it.
Yeah.
So on a 4-up.
Getting more efficiency out of your entire army, arguably 50% more efficiency out of all your shooting. Huge for KO.
Yeah. I feel like we don't know enough. There's lots of channels out there that talk about KO and all that stuff. So definitely look at them for some, I just off the cusp. I don't know if this is going to be crazy competitive. The KO is already so good as well with their original builds. So,
but they did get hit by the points, which the loss of efficiency, we have seen KO drop off.
For sure, but I still think that the players that are really good with KO in certain matchups can still do very, very well.
For sure, but I think this is a very solid tool that gives those KO players even more options.
Yeah,
and they're going to find things even like, this is just the stuff we're talking about is the obvious stuff when you first read it. There's always depth to players who know factions more and better and can dig through and find the hidden gems or whatnot.
For sure,
but like, even think like, sure, maybe you don't want to put everything in front of their army because the clapback is going to be too big. This isn't going to be a low drop army, though. I mean, it could potentially be a 2-drop with two battle regiments because everything becomes a battle line. So it is going to be low drop. If it's going to want to give way first, come up, even if it pushes everything to one half the board, it's going to take out a flank. And then if you can't get closed ground fast enough, and you're potentially even charging into gun hauler screens, wrapping the ironclads, like.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. Yeah, it could be insane. It could be.
Or like,
I'm not sure.
You have 4 gun haulers. You use 2 to move the dice 18, 21 inches. Turn 1. The other ones come up behind with the heroes for the buffs, and then those ones behind for the heroes can also then move the Thunderers 18 inches on the next turn because they haven't used their once per game ability.
Yeah.
In addition to read the winds and all those other things. So.
But classic just KO too. If you can give away first and then you double with that amount of shooting, it's going to lift a lot of anyone's army.
Yeah.
So it's still the same kind of.
Again, the 30 Thunderers though went up in points. The fact that you don't need gun haulers and ironclads anymore helps mitigate the point increase because you can now transport just with gun haulers.
Yeah, that's the dream. You just want to see people run 8 units of 5 Thunderers and 8 boats, or whatever that number is to be able to run that, because it's just cool.
That's true too. Won't take the buffs as well, but you could easily go MSU.
Everything shoots twice in 4.
Yeah, or MSU and 1 blade block or whatnot. You got options.
It's just cooler too.
Yeah. So that's the army. They're to have again some artifacts, battle tactics. Let's just look through those real quick. And grand strats, that's always noticeable or notable.
Yeah, their grand strat's simple. It's like have a boat or a gun hauler and the Thunderer unit.
So if you are MSU, that or a mix of MSU and a big block, that's really achievable. Late game, if you need to, if it's looking bad, you've either shot them off the table or you've taken a lot of casualties and you run one of those pairings off into the corner. So really good grand strategy. Battle tactics, blow them away. An enemy unit was destroyed during this turn. with an attack made by the Grudge, Settler, Protocols, Battle trait. So that's the 4-up, you shoot twice. So basically, if you're pumping enough shots into a unit, you shoot it with 3 or 4 units, you're gonna roll 1 4-up. Good chance of that. Easy to do with like your Dunhaulers. You maybe shoot a bunch of Dunhaulers first or whatever, but you do have to roll a 4-up. So that one's maybe you just got to be smart with your target allocation and what you shoot. You shoot a couple of chip shooting first
to make sure you get the 4-up.
The 4-up, and then you go in with the hero or with your big firepower afterwards to finish it.
Yep.
No safe haven. Pick one objective on the battlefield controlled by your opponent. End the turn, if you control that objective with friendly unit that was set up with rapid redeployment. Easy. So that's the move where you move a Dunhauler and tag unit. So you're bringing 15 bodies plus the Dunhauler. So you're honestly, it's easier to take objectives because you don't have to fly high over there. You just use the movement, right? And stuff is not in the boat, so you got more bodies on the board.
Yeah,
so that's a really good battle tactic. So 2 awesome ones or 2 like solid ones. Thunderous Claim. Pick one objective on the battlefield you do not control. If you control it at the end of your turn, with 2 different Grunstock Thunderers units. So either your MSU or you put your 2 big blocks on there, or a big block and a 5 block, whatever situation. Again, a really achievable one. So there's
drop them on the board.
Yes, KO loses their like 5 or 6 really good ones, but they still have 3 really solid ones. And still easily do Surround and Destroy. Still easily do Intimidate the Invaders. So there's 5 already that are probably to be the ones you lean on throughout a game.
Yeah, it's easy. They did a really good job with all of these subfactions of keeping the tactics to having at least 1 and usually 2 decent ones.
Which was
or good ones
for some armies that only like of their 6 had 2 good ones, right? Like KO wasn't one of those armies. Yeah. So KO. I think this is going to be one of the more competitive subfactions here. This and the Sons of Bahamut ones are in it from a competitive standpoint. I think the standouts. So if you're interested in running one of those, obviously, you're going to love this book and you're going to want to grab it. If you're interested in doing the MSU stuff, or not the MSU, sorry, the more thematic stuff with the Ironjaw's Big Page or Trod Herd, which is still actually a solid one as well. It's a good one. Those are super worthwhile, to look at in these books as well. On the Ironjaw side, obviously, it was really awesome to see Games Workshop put out the supplement. So if you just want the rules for the new units, you can go find those. Digitally. So that was really cool to see. Hopefully, that's kind of a sign of things to come of maybe moving more in that direction. No idea if that's going to happen or this was a one-off, but fingers crossed. More that's digital and free, the better for the game, and I think.
Yeah, of course. Being able to access everything is definitely the way, and moving to digital, absolutely.
Yep. But Rich, so I guess that covers everything from a, standpoint overall. I think this was, my thoughts on the book. I think this book was like much more impactful to the game than the first Dawnbringers book.
Yeah.
Where there's like 4 armies that like have a legitimate reason to pick up and use this book. More than that, if you're like a Cities player or you're interested in the Path of Glory stuff. We mentioned there's like a bunch of, again, Path of Glory stuff for Cities specifically, but there are like narrative specific missions for each of the armies included in the Dawnbringers that are covered, that we've gone over. So lots of stuff for lots of players, for different armies. But Ridge, any other kind of high level thoughts over everything? You like the book?
No, I think it's great. Like you said, it's perfect that they've actually brought 4 usable subfactions. It's kind of strange the way not strange, but it's different the way that they made this. You have to use only certain units, but once you realize those rules, maybe where the rules are like before the Path of Glory, it's kind of easy to miss that. But in the book, if it's like right before the Allegiance or wherever else, I think it's great to have 4 subfactions that actually you'll see competitive play.
Yep.
So that's amazing. And and people have said in the chat here just about the FAQ. So we'll see if there is any.
I'm sure there will be an FAQ. But see what does change. I would be surprised to see anything change super quickly.
Yeah, same.
Which because lately the AOS rules writers have kind of set a precedent of like waiting to see stats and all that, which I think is a good thing. You know, if there's egregious things, they've shown that they will kind of address things quickly if it's completely off the wall. But otherwise, if it's in a reasonable realm, let's kind of see what happens and see how things shake out. Because again, this is first thoughts. We've had a couple games, but it takes a lot more experience to try to get a handle on our level of stuff.
For sure. Overall, really good though. Like making it so that everything is kind of usable and viable. That's always the goal. Increasing armies to be able to use more units, different units, and extra subfactions.
And variety, mix things
plus.
up. Yeah.
Yes, and then digital, making things digital, huge plus.
Yeah, huge plus. Awesome, big wins there. Awesome new range expansion to Iron Jaws. I think that is like the number one takeaway. Gives a lot of armies hope to see the same thing maybe in the future in years to come. So that was it hit like to varying degree checks all across the board with this one, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
Awesome. Well, we are just over an hour there kind of talking about the book, so hope you guys enjoyed kind of the insights, the thoughts about everything that came with the Reign of the Root Dawnbringers book. Again, super excited for it. Bridge, are you ready for our narrative campaign?
Yes, I am ready to run a bunch of trogs in our narrative campaign that is probably not going to come out or happen, but yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, we'll see. Let us know if you guys want to see that. But either way, thanks so much for watching. I do want to hear your feedback, what you guys think about Reign of the Brutes. So if you have any other ideas or things we missed or didn't see or whatnot, I'd love to hear your thoughts as we dig into this. Honestly, the community feedback is one of the most helpful things about running this channel. I think, in terms of like, it's so easy, you play so many armies, it's so easy to miss little things here and there. So I super appreciate all that feedback. And yeah, love you guys. Thank you so much for watching and all the support. See you guys soon. Another video. Peace.
Yeah.